Here's the Chapter 14 review. Pause the video here, answer the 3 questions, and hit play when you're done. And pause it again here, answer the final 2 multiple choice, and hit play when you're done. Here are the answers. The first one is C, because when doing a chi-squared test for goodness of fit, you do the number of categories minus 1. 2 is counts, because that's the term you use when measuring for a chi-squared test. The distribution is skewed right. It's D, because on a chi-squared graph, the tail end goes to the right. For 4, it is B, because when you have to find the expected counts, they need to all be greater than or equal to 5. And finally, in order to reject the null hypothesis, the p-value needs to be less than alpha, so the answer is A. And here's the open response question. Miss Safer wants to install a new AP Stat Lounge in the high school. Mr. Parga and Mr. Sperling think that the location of this lounge will impact what seat students choose to sit in. A random sample of 180 students were selected and questioned. Location and preference are summarized below. So pause the video here and do a whole test of significance, and then hit play to hear the answer. So first, you'd be using a chi-squared test for independence. You could use homogeneity, but I find independence easier, and that alpha is 0.05. Your null hypothesis is there is no association between location of lounge and seat preference, and your alternative hypothesis is there is an association between location of lounge and seat preference. The 2 conditions are, is it from a random sample? And yes, it says that in the problem. And secondly, are all the expected counts greater than or equal to 5? So you can run the test in our calculator, and I'll give you a matrix with all the expected counts. So you can just draw the matrix here, and here are all the numbers. For step 3, you could do this out, or the calculator will just give you the chi-squared value of 21.4246. So plug it in your graph, and you can either again use chi-squared CDF, or the calculator will give you a p-value, which when doing a test of independence, to find the degrees of freedom, you do rows minus 1 times columns minus 1, so it's 2 times 1, so we get 2 degrees of freedom, and our p-value is pretty much 0. And since p is about 0, which is less than alpha, we reject the null hypothesis and conclude that there is an association between location of lounge and seat preference. For example, we expected there to be about 15 who would want to sit in the swing in Miss Safer's room, but we only observed 5. However, this is only valid if the conditions were met. And for this statement here, when doing tests, only mention it if you actually reject. If you fail to reject, then don't show an example of when the data is wrong from what you would expect.